Call is being recorded.
That's right, you heard her. Welcome, Natasha. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here myself. How is
are
everybody
you?
doing?
Good.
Good. I got a 4-day week, so always good. Have a 3-day weekend.
I'm saying. Let me see if I can get your volume up just a little bit.
Oh.
Natasha, what's going on out there today? I mean, we got lots of stuff going on tonight, but tonight we got a really good call tonight, and we always do the preamble. Tell us what's happening. We got classes coming up. We got
Absolutely. Well, before we get too much into it, I'd like to welcome everybody. It is June 30th, 2025. I hope everybody is having a great day. I just want to let everybody know that what we talk about here, we're not here to hurt anybody's feelings. We're not here as lawyers, as advice on anything. We always ask that anything that you hear, that you always do your due diligence. So basically what we talk about are methods and procedures that we've actually done ourselves, and we're just actually doing a service to the public and just I guess maybe just sharing it with y'all. And of course, we don't promote any drugs or alcohol, and we're not, like I said, we're not here to hurt anybody's feelings. But if you do have questions, we ask that you put them down at the bottom of the chat down there, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. Now,
that's right.
Yeah. So you put some new classes up online today, didn't you?
Well, not really new classes, but we have new dates and a lot of new dates for July. So, I mean, they're not new classes either. These are the classes that we always teach, but not everybody knows what we teach.
Oh, absolutely. So let's see. The way that it goes is going to be the one we were talking about previously is the farm mailing book, which is a very important class. This one is going to be for July the 18th, and this is going to be, I guess you would just say it's how you're going to teach us how to move in equity and the right jurisdiction. It's a very, very good, powerful class, and I really, really like that one. But before you do that, you'll want on July the 23rd, do your trust in UCC. This is going to be more of your foundation of getting you separated from you and the straw man and understanding what that is exactly, and that way you can start using the proper vehicles and the proper etiquettes and everything, to what would be the best way? Just to, just start moving in what you need to do as far as your trust. Then,
well, I think that people are. I think Natasha. I think people are waking up, and I think people are trying to figure out. You're seeing things a little different, okay, and you're starting to see that there's some cracks in the paint. We know that there's some problems with history. We know there's lots of problems, but really, how does it hit home? And I think the biggest problem is that we end up commingling ourselves in so much stuff that we don't know which way is up. And this UCC class, this UCC and trust class is here to help you guys really mentor that part of your life. This is a part of your life that they didn't teach us. They didn't teach us how to do any of this stuff in school. They didn't teach us how to set ourselves up for taxes, to do any kind of wealth planning, to make sure that our estates stay out of probate. Because what happens if you die and you don't have any? I mean, what happens to all your stuff if you don't have any plans, Natasha?
The state's either going to take it or your kids are going to have to fight and pay extra taxes and all kind of good stuff over it.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You guys work hard for your kids, right? Well, prove it. Prove it.
Absolutely.
I think we'd have a lot less divorce if everybody just put everything in trust. I do in this country. I think we have a lot of selfish people, and it comes from the culture. It comes from the music. It comes from everything that's out there, but people get selfish and they get, I mean, you always see those gold digger videos, where you have those guys in the Lamborghinis and they're wearing a McDonald's uniform and they're hitting on a girl and she's like, get away from me. And then they find out and then this and this. I mean, that's real. And President Trump is really cracking down and saying that, there's a lot of predatory women out there, no disrespect, but to any of y'all, by the way, there's a lot of predatory women out there, or Jezebel type women that are out there, and they're literally out there preying on men. And there are the other ones doing the other two. There are men preying on women too, but that's kind of a given. I think people expect that, but nobody expects, the Jezebel to be a female sometimes. It's funny, and yet they do. This is a way to protect your wealth. This is a way for you to stay focused on your marriage and not have to worry so much about what is she going to do to you. You know what I mean? Because they use this as a means of control. They really do. But if everything is out of y'all's control and it's just sitting in a trust somewhere, then all you have to work on is yourselves. You have nothing to fight about except for yourselves. You can't fight about the car. You can't fight about the house. You can't fight about any of that stuff because none of it's y'all's. It's all pledged for your beneficiaries. This is where we need to change. This is the mindset that we need to change. And this is why I teach this class. It's so powerful.
Yeah, going back to that, the way me and Larry look at it is we have, multiple vehicles in this, and I tell him, well, I don't own it, you don't own it, but what do you want to borrow for today? Well, I think I want to take the F-150 or the Toyota or whatever, and I'm just going to borrow it from the trust. So that's kind of how our mindset.
And that is so awesome. That is absolutely the way to look at it. That is absolutely. And here's the bigger picture, you guys. It really doesn't even belong to us. We've all heard the term, you can't take it with you. So we know we can't take it with us. But we can hoard it until we just can't take it anymore. Right, Tim? No, that's not going to help either. And that doesn't benefit your beneficiaries either. And it doesn't show that you love them. It shows that you're thinking about yourself. And the best thing you can do is give that stuff away and start working towards the goal of taking care of your beneficiaries and leaving something for them when you're gone, versus hoarding everything that you can, because we're only going to be here for a little bit and it all belongs to Yahweh anyway. Just saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It goes by quicker than what you think sometimes. I look at it and some of my grandbabies should not be 13 years old already, I'm like, goodness.
Definitely, right?
Yeah, so you have two more classes. So you have the travel and drive that's coming up on July the 9th and the 10th. This class here, I find this one always interesting because you have the ones that say you're traveling or you're driving or you're doing it commercial, to where if you're just going to pick up your father or grandfather at the grocery store, then you're technically, just traveling. Or if you're doing this, i.e. and all that. But, whenever you get in the commercial capacity, people are getting all that confused.
They really are.
They really are. And they're saying you don't need insurance, you don't need driver's license, you don't need all this. And what I find the most fascinating with this class is that, you do need all this for your protection on your living person, kind of going back to that UCC, is you, the living person, versus that straw man. So when you step into that role, more or less, that's when you need your driver's license, you need your insurance, and you need all that so you can do commercial business, because like you always say, the living person can't do that. So who's going to do that for you,
And that's where these guys are missing it. That's where these guys are really missing it. They're scared from one side of the chicken coop to the other, Natasha. And so they're like, oh, the straw man is bad. Let's run from him and let's get a divorce from the straw man and run away. And then next thing you know, you're like an immigrant that can't do anything in this country now. But you're happy?
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Right. And, and then the one thing is, okay, so yeah, sure, I pay registration, I pay insurance, I pay all this as a protection for me and my family. But, when you get down to your debt and your foreclosures and your classes and stuff like that, you teach us how to stay in that private capacity, but you also teach us how to get all that back, which you have your, the debt and foreclosure class on July the 16th and 17th, which that one I really like. So since you spent all this time, learning about travel and drive, and you've, done your trust and you want to stay private, This class here on your debt, and foreclosure, this is going to teach you how to stay private. So when somebody comes at you, you're going to say, no, thank you, I don't want none. And, and say, this is how we're going to do it. You're going to step into that administrator role, and kind of put your foot down and say, here you go, and it gives you
Well,
kind of like a leg to fight on, as
what
far
do
as
you say
that.
to those? What do you say to those people that say? Sorry, I mean to interrupt, but what do you say to those people that say, "Oh, we don't get involved in that kind of stuff"? With people that like travel, and they're like, "Oh, we don't need the travel class because we don't get tickets. We don't have those problems. Like we go and stand in line for this stuff or something. We buy tickets. What do you say
Yeah.
to those people?"
Yeah. I think those people are just, uh, I don't know. I mean, as
I think
far
their
as,
day is coming.
yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it.
Mhm.
Kind of going back to the travel and drive class, that's one thing that a lot of people talk about is your special appearance and stuff. And in that class, you actually teach us how to do that, but also that is how to represent yourself whenever you do get pulled over for a ticket and why you get pulled over for a ticket, what to say, not to be combative because, you do have these ones that they're, trying to follow under these UCCs and I'm private and I'm this and I'm that, and then they're like, roll down your window and then, and just being kind of ugly hearted, with the cops. And I understand they're there to do their job as well. But at the same time, you need to make, you don't need to make ruckus and all that stuff. And for them to break your windows, and that's the
Right. You
sad
need to
part
be
is,
contracting. And that's
yeah,
what you're going to learn in my class. You're going to learn how to contract. You're going to be so busy contracting with those cops and contracting with the judges and contracting with the courts. Oh my God, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But you're going to be so busy doing it, they're going to leave you alone because that's how
mm,
you beat these guys, Natasha. Contracts.
yes.
Whether it be the
And
debt and foreclosure class, whether it be the travel and driving class, whether it be the tax equity and discharge class, it's all about contracts. It's all about enforcing those contracts. And that is the nuts and bolts of what we teach here.
yeah, and it's kind of hard just to pick one class because I like all of them. I like where they all kind of stand. I like how they just fold together and teach you, and we always talk about going in that full circle. And you got your debt, tax, and equity class on July the 25th, and this is going to be your full circle of all the stuff that you learned in the previous classes of how to put it together, how to talk to your CPA, exactly what, discharging is, how to get those credits back, how to do, on those contracts you talk about, can you cash those in? Can you do certain things with them? And you teach us that. So, instead
That
of,
is the cool stuff.
yeah, and,
And you know what people realize, I think, when they get done with that class? I think they realize how big of a hole in the bucket they actually have. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's a metaphor. So imagine that you're trying to get to this birthday party, okay? And you're trying to get confetti there, okay? But the problem is you got all these holes in your bucket. And the more confetti you keep putting in there, the more confetti that keeps falling out. I'm going to tell you, if you're paying your bills, some of us feel the same way sometimes. And the reason why is because we're not discharging our debt and we're only understanding one side of the transaction. This class, I'm going to teach you how to operate on both sides. I'm going to teach you how to monetize your contracts. And if you guys don't know what that means, schedule an interview with me. I'll teach you what it means. But I'm going to show you how to monetize your contracts, get them done, get them securitized. We had Sean was on the call 3 weeks ago, and
mhm.
he had a $147,000 tax return this year. And everything was legit. Everything he did was legit, and this is why there's a lot of haters out there.
Yeah, and it just unfortunately we were not taught this in school. I mean, even if
Or
you go
even
to
at
college,
home.
at home, yeah. I mean, it was back in the 80s. You always heard about trust fund babies and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, they're rich, they're this, they're that, and stuff, and is just, not really the case, but they just understood how to make everything go in a circle and how to protect their assets, like you were talking, that way they don't go into probate, and that way it gets passed down to their children. And, so I think just all the
Well,
classes
and this is how
together.
you create, and this is how you create generational wealth. And I'm going to tell you
Mhm.
the reason why they stopped teaching this stuff, the reason they don't talk about it anymore, is because they don't want you creating generational wealth. Because if you start creating generational wealth and that starts rolling over to your beneficiaries, then guess what? They don't have to drive 90 miles an hour down the freeway and run everybody over so they can hurry up and get to work so their boss doesn't beat them. That's how they drive here in Texas, by the way. And if you guys have ever been to Dallas, man, the cars, you'll see Suburbans just coming up off the pavement with people trying to get to work so fast. I got to get there for my boss. I got to get there. And they act like they got their family tied up in a dark room somewhere. If they're not there by 9 a.m., they're going to get it.
Well,
It's
and then
sad.
too, yeah,
Go ahead.
well, and then going back to that, instead of working to, I think, what is retirement age now, 62, 72, 75, something like that. They keep moving it up and up to where they keep making you work longer and longer, so you don't get to really enjoy all the stuff that you're working for. I mean, what you going to do at that age? Where are you going to
Oh,
go?
no.
To
You're going
where
to sit around and wait to die.
Exactly. So they don't want to see like you and me and everybody else, that learned the system to retire at 45 and 55 and travel and do and enjoy themselves, but then they don't have
Uh-uh.
anybody run around the racetrack,
Well, that doesn't
So,
drive the economy if you're all on vacation.
exactly.
Nobody's working if you're on vacation. What's that all about? You just can't do that. So, I mean, and this is why they're just trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do, man. And all I know is what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is get people to the other side. Those of you guys that are waking up, it's going to be the class for you. So tonight I wanted to go in a little bit, and I know I didn't prep you for this, but I had to, we've got our esquire.com, and
Mhm.
I, of course, we're still working on some stuff with that. But anyway, I've had a chance to play with some of the stuff over there, and it's pretty cool. So today, and what's really nice is that you can do some research too. And today and tonight, I'm going to talk to you guys about a mandamus. You ever heard of one of those, Natasha?
I've heard you talk about it, but I really haven't gotten really in depth in it. So you have me like sitting on the edge of my chair, like I want to know these things.
So a mandamus is something that you file when, well, for a lot of reasons, but the main reason that I filed it is because I've been in this traffic jam. No, I've been in this. Okay, they've been the stalker and I've been the stalkee. So I've been stalked by Houston County, Texas for the last 5.5 years. And what I was able to discover going through all the documents, going through and having the software read everything, it interpreted things and looked at things and pulled out facts that I just didn't see, Natasha. And one of the
Mm.
things that it showed was a very fatal error in my case. And well, amongst many, but one of the major fatal errors, and this is something that could actually get Houston County in a whole lot of trouble. So they have effectively shut down my TikTok page. As soon as I read, as soon as I figured out all this stuff was going on, I did what you're supposed to do. You file judicial notice. Okay. If the court's doing something they're not supposed to be doing, file judicial notice on the court record. That way, when you appeal it, you can show, hey, man, I made presentment to the court and they're doing it. Judge Wapner's doing it anyway. He doesn't care. He has no disregard for the law. He doesn't care. And let me tell you, if you get a judge's ego pumped up enough, he doesn't care about nobody or nothing. His agenda is going to rule. And that's where they get themselves in a whole lot of trouble. And this particular judge, Judge Pfeiffer, has had a personal vendetta against me for the last 5.5 years. And probably it's because during the course of all of this unlawful arrest and all kinds of stuff, we've been pushing back. And what has happened as a result is that we hit the right dominoes down to get the agencies to start looking at their behavior. This is a key thing to do. If you guys are ever dealing with political powers and they're not acting right, it doesn't matter if it's your job, doesn't matter if it's a city, it doesn't matter if it's a county, a state, a federal, it doesn't matter what it is. What you want to do is you want to look at their infrastructure and you want to see what kind of fail safes they have in place. In other words, if you have the Texas Rangers and they happen to have a public corruptions bureau, you might want to send them notice as to things going on. Because what happens is that's a big domino. And if you knock over the Texas Rangers, you're going to get Chuck Norris, you're going to get the Dodge truck, you're going to get the Charger, you're going to get everybody over there, okay? All of them. And they all look like that too. Anyway, they're going to show up like little FBI people. And they're going to make your life miserable. I've seen the Texas Rangers go in. We had in San Antonio, we had a sheriff that was involved. Well, we had a lady that was running for sheriff, and she was involved in some pretty shady things going on, some corrupt things actually going on. Her husband was a car dealer, and she was, harassing people and doing stuff. I don't know, some kind of illegal stuff. I don't remember exactly. I don't really want to say. But anyway, I will tell you that that while she was running for sheriff, the Texas Rangers didn't care. Somebody wrote them a little note, and they showed right up. And then there was like 9 little cowboy hats, and they all went in, 10 little Indian brave boys. And they walked in and they stole all their files and they left. And then people went to jail, and you never heard from these people again. This is something that we need to learn how to do, Natasha, because we're quiet, way too quiet. Anytime you've ever had a job, in a fast food, or anybody, that's ever had a job at a fast food place, they always tell you, if somebody shows up to rob the place, you just give them all the money.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm here to tell you, if that was my money in the drawer, I'm not giving them all the money. But they're going to tell you that we need to lay down and we need to do that because it's worth more than your life. Well, how about not necessarily the money, but what about the principle of it? What about the principle of somebody walking in and slapping you in the face at your own job? And you're no. See, this is where we've gotten way too lax. And we've gotten so lax and so comfortable, Natasha, that our public officials, they know it. And they're out there making a business and running over people. I've been watching some of the cases going on around Texas. And what disgusts me more than anything else is that these attorneys insist on leaving these people in a venue where they know that there's something personally going on between them. For example, I hired, and I had to, I didn't have any choice. I filed 3 years of motions with Houston County, Texas. And I hired this lawyer named Gary Churak. And I paid this liar $7,500 to defend me on a Class A misdemeanor. And he didn't do anything. We had one court hearing. He did a great job, but nothing got dismissed. Nothing got dealt with. And I didn't pay for a dog and pony show. Well, kind of. But I didn't pay for the dog and pony show. Really, what I paid for is results. And, instead of doing what he was supposed to do, he decided he was going to set this thing up for trial. And on April the 16th, I had a hearing, and they decided to exclude me from this hearing. Yeah. And that's a huge constitutional violation. That is huge. But this is what happens when government thinks I'm too stupid to do anything about it. And they think that because you have to hire a lawyer, because they made you have to hire a lawyer, all of a sudden you're stupid and you don't know anything. Well, I'm going to tell you what, shortly after that hearing, Gary Churak was terminated. And terminated isn't even the word. We're not even done yet. But the first thing that we want to do is we want to solve the crime. So I put all this stuff into my software, and this is what we were able to, this is what we determined. Basically, what happened in October the 19th, 2019 is that I was arrested, charged with a felony for being in a drug-free zone, and that drug-free zone being Crockett City Park. Now, if you guys go and Google Crockett City Park, you're going to see there's no such place. And do you know why there is no such place? Because that officer is a liar. That's why. And he literally made this up. Now, he also claimed that I had marijuana too. Well, he made that up too. So these guys made up the evidence. They made up where we were, where I was. And then here was the crazier part. So in Texas, when you get indicted on a felony, or I'm sorry, when you get arrested for a felony and you bond out, which I did, they have 90 days to indict you. If they don't indict you after 90 days, that case is done. It is done. 16 months later, rather than that case being done, these guys decided to say, you know what? We're just going to transfer that case from here to here. And then that bond, we're going to move that bail bond. We're going to keep that boy on bond. And we're going to put it over here. Right. And do you know what that's called, Natasha? That's called securities fraud. That's called securities fraud. Yeah. So then, shortly thereafter, and this is what over at Esquire, this is what they figured out, even more than what I did. And then these guys reproduced more court records and put them on the court record and stated that like I had been on bond on this misdemeanor charge the entire time and the felony just went away. This is what happened. So then as soon as that conversion, which was illegal, to happen, then they decided, well, he's not showing up for his court hearings. I didn't have to show up for any court hearings. They had no reason to bring me in there. The case was expired. So they decided to sue me for breaching for a bond revocation. So then they revocated the bond that had already expired and then decided to give me a $5,000 cash bond. And that was, ladies and gentlemen, ridiculous. Now, the funny thing is, in order to sustain that felony charge, hold on, I'm getting to it. But in order to sustain that felony charge, I had to have 4 grams or less in within 1,000 feet of a drug-free zone. Well, because I didn't have it, and I didn't even have any drugs really. I had 2 CBD cigarettes that were legally purchased in Texas. I have been dealing with PTSD most of my adult life. And so on March the 10th, 2022, they revocated the bond. And remember that the arrest date, Natasha, was April the 19th, or was October the 17th, 2019. So given that they only had 90 days to indict me, and they didn't, this case was dead. And they literally created a cash bond out of nowhere, just using this paperwork. This is called fraud. And what's even worse than that is that there's another little thing in place, and it's called an annulment violation. When public employees receive payment for doing criminal things, that's an annulment violation. You guys should look that up. It's pretty interesting. So when do you file a Manel claim? You file a Manel claim when shady stuff is going on. Like, for example, if your bond is higher than it's supposed to be and the courts are proceeding anyway, in other words, it's like for me, a Class A misdemeanor has a $4,000 maximum, or it has a $4,000 fine. That's the maximum fine, $4,000. Well, my bond's $5,000. So basically you've just convicted me and charged me for it anyway. And that's called using a bond as an instrument of oppression. And then you can't do that either. So what happened is after solving all this and figuring all this stuff that happened, I said, what's my remedy? It's a mandamus. And the mandamus, what that does is all of our courts have a check system, okay? Even the family courts, you guys. So those of you guys who are doing the 2503 and they're not doing anything about it, hey, man, your remedy's right here. Your remedy is in the appeals court. And what you do, this will get your case to the appellate court before they even make a judgment. All they have to do is do something wrong. All they have to do is do something they're not supposed to do. And we certainly have miles of that and years of this going on, by the way. This is probably going to be a stupid movie. Anyway, and so this is what you do to get them involved. So the first thing that it generated was a cover letter to the clerk. And it said to the clerk of the court, please find and enclose for the filing. And this is what it created. It's pretty amazing. The relator's first amended petition for a writ of mandamus. I had to amend my first one. And the relator's motion to stay on court proceedings. That means their little kangaroo court just got put on hold. And then number 3, we have an appendix A through F, and then we have a certificate of service. So this is something that you have. Why is it in a booklet? Because it's like 40 pages. That's why. And it's a lot. And so when you send stuff to the appellate court, it's important that you have all of your stuff together. It's important that you have an index of authorities. So you have all of your laws and everything that you're talking about. Now, I'm going to read this to you guys. And the reason I'm going to read it to you guys, and please like and share, tag Houston County in this. The reason I'm going to read this to you guys is because I know that Houston County, their little creepo guys, those little guys are watching me right now. And they're watching this channel. And the more I read this stuff, the more mad they get. And the reason why they get so mad, Natasha, is because they can't answer it. And this is black and white truth. Looking at them in the face. And I think they're going to have some trouble with this. But let's see. You guys let me know at the bottom if you guys think that these guys can answer this or not, or what their answer would be. It says, to the honorable justices of the 12th Court of Appeals, comes now me, pro se, and respectfully petitions the honorable court with a writ of mandamus directing the trial court to vacate and cease all proceedings stemming from the unlawful arrest that occurred on October 16, 2019, the unconstitutional conversion of bond, and the ongoing denial of due process in connection with misdemeanor cause number and criminal case number, blah, blah, blah. This petition is grounded in the lack of lawful probable cause, the execution and judicial approval of falsified affidavits, fabricated and scientifically unsubstantiated evidence, and over 5 years of unlawful prosecutorial delays. Sorry, I can't speak today. All of which constitute clear violations of both statutory and constitutional rights under the Texas Constitution and the United States Constitution. Moreover, the realtor asserts that one or more connected public officials, including but not limited to the former county attorney Daphne Session, current county attorney Christina Massey, Judge Sarah Tunnell Clark, Judge Dwight L. Pfeiffer, and Judge Clyde Black, have continuously drawn public salaries and benefits and other annulments of office while engaging in acts that are unconstitutional, unlawful, or in excess of their legal authority. These include knowingly proceeding without jurisdiction, prosecuting on the basis of false or fabricated evidence, and allowing proceedings to continue absent a valid charging instrument or a timely prosecution. Such conduct constitutes a sustained annulment violation under Article 15, Section 40 of the Texas Constitution, as these officials have accepted financial benefit from the public treasury while violating their oaths of office and rights of the accused. Wow. As these annulment violations have occurred for over 5 years, and during which time said officials have failed to cure constitutional defects, cease ultra virus actions, or remedy ongoing to harm the realtor. And the continued exercise of public authority under these conditions represents not only a breach of constitutional duty, but also disqualifying conflict under both state and federal annulment provisions. The relator respectfully files this petition of writ of mandamus and seeks for this court's intervention to compel the trial court to perform in its clear ministerial duties, to vacate void proceedings, and to enforce constitutional and statutory protections guaranteed to the relator under law. So, if you guys want to know what a mandamus is for, when you see stuff that isn't right, okay, when you've got a bond that's $100,000 or $75,000, that right there is enough to chop down the whole cherry tree and send everybody home. It really is. There's a doctrine called the fruit of the poisonous tree, and I invite you guys to look that up and read it, okay? And what that means is that if the tree is poisonous, then the fruit is poisonous too, okay? So if the first part of this is bad, it's all bad. And I think that's what we're going to represent here very well. The position, I'm going to finish reading this, the position of the realtor respectfully submits that he is entitled to mandamus relief because the trial court has failed to perform mandatory ministerial duties required under law, specifically the trial court. Now, actually, you know what? I'm just going to read the issues presented because you'll hear everything. And they'll hear everything. You guys in Houston County, go get some more popcorn. It's about to get good. The issues presented, and we have a bunch of them. All right. He has refused to rule properly on a filed special appearance under Texas Civil Rules of Procedure 120A in violation of establishing a precedent. So when you file a special appearance and you're challenging the jurisdiction, the first thing they've got to do is they've got to establish jurisdiction. And it says right here in Dawkins versus White Products Corp, 443 Southwest 507, Texas 1969. That's a legit case. You can go look that up. And it says that they have to do this first. He says that they violated procedure by not doing it first, okay? Number 2, has permitted the prosecution of a Class A misdemeanor filed more than 2 years after the alleged offense, contrary to Article 1202 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Number 3, they have imposed and maintained unconstitutional bond conditions that exceed the maximum punishment for the charge of the offense in violation of the 8th Amendment of the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 13. So those of you guys that have these really stupid big bonds, that could be a violation. You need to look at these things, okay? I know some people in Smith County, and I think somebody might be overlooking that, CJ. And maybe, CJ, maybe you need to file one of these mandamuses. You know, I could just slip him a note on that one. Just saying. Anyway, number 4, has failed to address judicial record tampering, including whiteout and alteration of official court records, and has taken no corrective action on the petitioner's sworn judicial notice dated May the 12th, 2025. So what did I say? When they're doing something wrong, you make a record. Because if you make a record and they don't respond to it, your hands aren't dirty anymore, Natasha. Their hands are dirty now. This is how we move in these courts. So you guys get it, okay? Here's a big one here. Number 5, it says that has denied the realtor access to the hearing on April 16, 2024 in violation of due process rights under the 14th Amendment, Article 1, Sections 10 and 13 of the Texas Constitution. So these guys sound like a bunch of criminals. It sounds like Houston County, Texas, and their little people over here. I don't think they're legit at all. I think this is a crime syndicate. I think these people have definitely got some dirty hands here. I think you guys would probably agree too. Anyway, number 6, they've refused to rule, has failed to rule on the petitioner's filed motion to dismiss, despite the absence of any opposing response and clear entitlement of relief. See, nobody even answers my stuff. So if they don't answer it, that means they've accepted it. And it's your job to learn how to enforce it. This is how you get her done, guys. Number 7, has set matters for trial on July the 18th, 2025. Oh yeah, we're going to have a jury trial for this nonsense. Despite jurisdictional defects, expired limitations, and procedural violations that warrant the immediate dismissal. Number 8, whether or not the trial court retains jurisdiction over criminal prosecution based on fabricated probable cause, false search, and arrest. Number 9, whether the use of a modification of bond documents constitutes fraud and abuse of process. Number 10, whether the state may proceed despite not being ready within 90 days under Texas Criminal Procedures, Article 17.151. There it is. And number 11, whether the conversion of the felony charge to a misdemeanor was unlawful after 16 months had passed without indictment or any new evidence. That's a kicker. You're going to convert a case from here to there, you better have some new evidence. Because if you're rolling on the same 8-track you had before, it's still Donnie and Osmond's greatest hits. It's not Bob Seger. It's not going to get it done. Number 12, whether the state's affidavit for good cause is void on its face due to the contradiction by the DPS lab's findings. Yeah. See, I called the Department of Public Safety. They have a crime lab here. And if they don't test your stuff, you don't have drugs. Well, these guys sent this stuff over there twice to get tested, Natasha. And stupid. And they sent it and they kicked it out both times and said, we're not testing it. And yet we're still going forward on this. Statement of facts. Go ahead.
I was going to say, why would they refuse that? I mean, that's just crazy.
Because somebody has a personal agenda. Because we're not running a court at law. We're running a criminal at law court. That's what we're doing. And what we're doing is we're using the court to punish people and to hurt people. And the bigger story here is to run people off their land. I had 46 acres of property out there in Houston County. We were helping our homeless vets. We were housing them. We had 13 homes on the property. The House of Yah Community Outreach was paying all the bills. And the executor decided that she wanted to sell the property and profit from this after it had been donated, after it had been sitting in trust for 40 years. Well, Houston County, see, these guys are going to get paid on 46 acres. And the reason why they're going to get paid on it is because it's ministry property. When it sells and it changes hands, all the taxes that have been waived for the last 40 years are all going to come due. And who's going to profit from that? This little town with 7,000 people in it. That's who. And that's what drove this whole train. And this is why they did what they did. I can't wait till the FBI gets a hold of these guys. Statement of facts. On October the 16th, 2019, investigator Jerry Kalin, which, by the way, he doesn't work there anymore, executed, and Judge Clyde Black approved an affidavit that falsely alleged the relator at being arrested within 1,000 feet of Crockett City Park for enhancement, a drug-free zone, a location that does not verifiably exist. The affidavit claimed the realtor possessed marijuana despite admitting the absence of any direct evidence. It further alleged that a drug weighed between 2 and 4 grams, which later was contradicted by the Texas Department of Public Safety's crime labs, because they weighed the very same stuff and it weighed 0.08 grams. And that is not even a gram. So we took not even a gram and turned it into between 2 and 4 grams. Really, just made it up. Crazy. And this happens, you guys. Okay. Anyway, the report confirmed that the sample weight was only 0.08 grams and that the stated lab was unable to test for the presence of THC. So we don't even have any drugs. We have nothing. On April the 11th, bond records were visibly altered to reflect that N&M Bonding had posted a $10,000 bond for the case. However, the relator never entered into such a misdemeanor bond agreement, and the arrest it purportedly secured was not lawfully executed. Subsequently, on March the 20th, 2022, more than 5 months after the realtor's arrest. Actually, it was a year and 5 months after the realtor's arrest without indictment. The case was improperly converted from a felony to a misdemeanor under the presumably under Texas Penal Code 12.44. The felony $10,000 bond was simulated to be forfeited and then replaced with a $5,000 cash bond, and on a simulated failure to appear, triggering the issuance of a new arrest warrant, and this cash bond was collected without any legal justification or observance of due process. Moreover, the state failed to bring the case to trial within 90 days of confinement, and in violation of Article 17151 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Despite these procedural and constitutional defects, the trial court has allowed the prosecution to proceed. These cumulative acts, including the execution of knowingly false affidavit, falsification of bond records, unlawful charge reduction, and procedural delay, constitute an abusive process, denial of due process, and warrant the extraordinary remedy of mandamus. Under Texas Government Code 22.2221b, this court has jurisdiction to issue a writ of mandamus to correct the clear abuse of discretion where there is no adequate remedy at law. The relator has no adequate legal remedy due to the ongoing denial of his constitutional rights, unlawful confinement, and structural judicial misconduct. The failure to dismiss the prosecution violates 17.151, not being ready in 90 days, and Penal Code 12.44, and doesn't authorize the conversion of charges in this context. The state's affidavit for good cause is disproven by the lab results and contradicts its own arrest affidavit. And there's some other cases that I pulled up, and it says, see also this other case. This court has consistently granted mandamus where fundamental rights are denied through the procedural abuse and prosecutorial misconduct. Sorry, I can't speak today. That's what happened. And that's kind of the nutshell, really, of what happened. And then the rest of all this that's in here is just evidence. It's evidence of me making that record. It's evidence. Look, I'm going to show you guys. I actually have the DPS crime lab reports. They're right here. And they say everything. And they tell the truth. How do you deal with a tyrannical government? You learn their powers. You learn where these things fall. And when you learn where these things fall, you know how to take them out. We have a very complicated system, okay? And I'm going to tell you, it takes a lot to navigate through this. If you guys are going through stuff like this, schedule an appointment with me. No, we're not lawyers. No, man, absolutely not. And I'm going to tell you, you don't need to be. That's right. You don't need to be. You guys can take care of your own defenses. Let me tell you, I spent $7,500 on a lawyer. I spent way less than that creating this today. Way less. And at least from here, I'll have a court that will listen to me. You know, I've been filing stuff in the last 5 years in Houston County, Texas, and they don't answer anything. As a matter of fact, Natasha, we have a video that we put up where Judge Dwight Pfeiffer actually says that the prosecutor, she doesn't have to answer anything you file. She can if she wants to, but she doesn't have to. And he said that in open court. No kidding. And then also in open court, he showed up, sat in the witness stand on March the 13th of 2024. He sat in the witness stand for over 30 minutes trying to direct the court from the witness stand, Natasha. This is inappropriate. This is inappropriate. And for those of you that say, well, you know, we don't get into those kinds of trouble. We don't stand in line for that. You know what? I was just a pastor taking care of my people, taking care of our veterans, taking care of our homeless vets, and feeding them, clothing them, but also feeding their minds and helping them get out of the hole that they're in. Teach them another way. Teach them how to make their own money so they don't have to ask nobody for anything. This is what we were doing out there. And Another thing we were doing out, excuse me. Another thing we were doing out there is we were preaching the word of Yahweh. We weren't being religious, you guys. We were out there and we were walking the walk, still walking the walk, but we were walking the walk and talking the talk, living this life that Yahweh wants us to live. And I'm going to tell you, that was just too bright of a light for these inbred people out there, apparently. And I say this, if you make war with me, any of you, anybody, you make war with my Elohim. And Yahweh has unlimited resources. He has unlimited knowledge. And whatever game that these guys are playing, I assure you, he knows exactly how to take them out. This happened because I trusted him. And I didn't trust you. I didn't trust these people. And I failed. And I failed him because instead of trusting him, I handed money over to a liar, that Gary Churak guy. And I'm going to tell you, man, that guy wouldn't even give me any evidence, anything. Because he knows what I do with it. He knows I'll use it against him. But you know what? I didn't have to use any evidence. I used their own record against them. Natasha, everything that I filed and the conversion of the bond and all that stuff, that's all showing on their own paperwork, on the own stuff that they filed. And the Daphne Sessions information and probable cause affidavit tells everything, tells the truth. It actually tells the truth completely. And I still don't understand why this happened, other than I know that there is a devil out there. And I know that our Elohim is out there. And I know that there are forces and there are principalities out there that want to shut his people down. But it's just not your time. It's just not your time. And the time is short. And the word says, let him who has understanding reckon the number of the beast. And that means that you need to understand it. That means you need to know who's sitting across the table from you. And let me tell you, I know exactly who is sitting across the table from me. You guys want to learn more about how to do this stuff right? I'm not going to give you legal advice. Oh, no. I'm going to give you the kind of advice your parents would give you. I'm going to give you the kind of advice your loved ones would give you. The ones that have walked through this hell, that have walked through this fire, that sat in the lion's den with all these lions, eating popsicles, baby. I've been that guy. And I'll be that guy again. This is the message that we have for you guys out there. If you guys want to learn how to do this right, follow someone that's done it. Follow someone that's done it. And please learn this process. Those of you guys that are waking up right now, you're waking up for a reason. And you're not waking up because you're smart. You're waking up because your creator woke you up. And the smartest thing you can do is humble yourself before him and ask him, what else can I do? What else can I do to get more from you? Really, that's the best advice I have for anybody waking up in this process right now. There's so many people out there that are going to steer you wrong. There's so many people out there that got a bunch of half-baked ideas. And there's so many people that have no proof. Now, how do you figure these people out? When they can't explain things. When you ask them, when you finally pin them down and their story is finally to hear, and you get them to that point and you say, okay, hold on. Show me how this works right here. And they can't. When they can't do that, it's time to walk away. When you don't know what their names are, it's definitely time to walk away, because that means he already has an intent to lie to you, Natasha. If he asks you to sign an NBA to keep him out of trouble. Next. You hear me? Yeah. I'm serious, right? Right, Natasha? Have you heard of those ones that have you do it? And anybody that wants you to do make any kind of public filing and put your personal information all over the place. Walk away, run. And I mean, run fast. These people don't have your best interest in mind. These people know that you're waking up and they're trying to stop you. They're trying to derail you. They're trying to make you stumble. And I ask you this, and I'm telling you this, reckon the number of the beast. Know who is across the table from you. Okay? Don't be anxious for his delicacies. Because if you eat them, they make you sick. All those comments that you said, all those things that you said about that teacher, wasted. I bet you Brandon Joe Williams is seeing a lot of that right now. Mm-hmm. But he's still trying, right? You need people that are doing this stuff, not trying, right?
Exactly.
This is crazy.
For me, whenever I first started, I looked at different people, this person, that person, and like you said, though, they didn't have any fruits. They couldn't explain things to me. They would say, "Oh yeah, but you can do this. But have you done that?" And they were like, "Well, no, but," and I'm like,
"But my friend did it."
Right. And what they say and this and that and the other, and I'm like, no, thank you. But, most important, though, is what Yahweh is. Whenever I just felt it wasn't right, I had to go. I just moved on. And then, on a Monday night call like this is how I actually found you. And I was like, well, wait a minute. He answered, do I need to be a state national? And you're like, no, please don't, throw your life away because you need to be a state national. And I'm like, okay, you had me intrigued. And then you answered like all the questions that I had, and still do to this day. And sometimes I have like, oh, that's what he meant, because sometimes you don't really, you could tell me all the information, but until you actually like either live through it or know somebody, a friend of a friend that, might be going through a court case or doing their taxes or got a ticket or something like that, it starts to all kind of make sense and click. But
exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And I mean, and it's what it took for me too. I woke up in 2015 and I just saw a lot of people struggling. And, I don't know. I had clarity. I had clarity about a lot of things because of where I've been. Because I spent so long in the car business, because I spent so much time in the restaurant business, because I spent so much time. Okay. So I had a lot of personal experience. So, I mean, when the lights turned on for me, I mean, I saw whole floors, opening up in my life. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know I had all this square footage. I didn't even know. And here it is. And so when I started talking or coming out about it, who picked me up was, or I guess and I still give them thanks too. What's Tactical Sovereignty? Do you know who that is? That sound familiar? Well, they're not there either, but they're the ones that put me online first. And it was really weird because they were, and they're not anymore, but they were kind of bumping shoulders with Anna von Wright's group. And there was all this talk about taking your social security number and throwing it in the trash and all this stupid stuff. And I was like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be doing any of that today. And I got to tell you, man, because I knew how powerful it all was. I knew how powerful we could do. I knew what we could do. I'd seen corporations move. I'd seen them move on people for so many years. I spent so many years in court and learning things, and not because I'm a criminal either. I don't have a big criminal record or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that, I mean, I got like that little dope charge, and I got that little CBD cigarette charge in Houston County. That probably makes me a felony, but whatever, makes me a felon or something. But outside of that, no, man, nothing like that's going on. And, you got to stay out of that mix, because that's what they're here to do. They're here to get you to discredit yourself. And I think that's where what they're really doing in a lot of these movements, not just the state nationals, but I mean, a lot of these other movements, and so I'm telling you guys, be cautious. And 7 o'clock, but be cautious, you guys. Be cautious who you're listening to, and test them. Okay. And if they get mad at you because you're testing them, that means they're lying. Simple as that. If they get offended because you're asking them to explain themselves, it's because they're lying. They're narcissists, sociopaths. And this is what they do to protect their position. So don't let anybody push your buttons like that, okay? The truth is within all of us. The difference is, do we have eyes to see and ears to hear? That's the real difference. And I'm going to tell you, those of you guys that are waking up right now, Yahweh is the difference. He's the one that woke you up. Your creator woke you up. Not David Straight, not me, not anybody else. So give that credit to him. And when you do, just like Natasha did, he'll start moving the right people in your path. And gosh, I hope it's me. But if it's not me, it's going to be the right person. Just know that, okay?
Yeah.
I want to thank all of you guys for being on the call tonight. Natasha, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, yeah, actually I do. For the classes, they do have a donation that we do with them. And I just wanted to say, because you were talking about the veterans, and that's where your donations actually go. So I just want to let everybody know that.
That's what we do. We help our vets. We help
Yeah.
them get their paperwork done. We get them to the VA. We get their 100% status done. Man, I am working my butt off all the time over here helping these guys and helping other folks too. Jamie and I are actually, real quick, I know we're going to get closing, but Jamie and I, and we're going to invite you to the call too, Natasha, but we're about to do a law talk. And Jamie does big cases. She's got murder cases and big federal cases, really exciting cases. And so we're going to be doing we're working on it right now, but we're working on a call where we're going to call it Law Talk. Okay. Or it's not Law Talk. I think that's probably what we're going to call it, something like that. It'll be something catchy and fun like that. But anyway, we're going to be going through these cases and we're going to be using our AI software. We're going to be putting the stuff in back and forth. Okay. Cause she's got hers over there and I got mine over here. And so we're going to be running them against each other. And then what's really cool is you guys get to see how fast and how efficient this stuff really does work. And it absolutely is amazing. So it'll be a really great opportunity for to just see some cool stuff. Does that sound like fun?
Yeah, actually, well, and that economic coercion that you talk about, and I think that's going to actually give people like a standing to where they feel that they can actually go, do a ticket along with your classes, or something, more, grand out there that they can actually learn to fight. I mean, look at you. I mean, these people have wronged you in so many different ways through bonds and beating you up and this and that and the other, but you're still fighting, and that's one thing that I do, respect about you. You're not just giving up or, you're still learning the process as yourself, as you're teaching, all your other classes and stuff. And I just like to commend you. And I think you're a wonderful teacher and I love helping and doing all the classes with you.
I'm so flattered. Thank you. Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you. And yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I think you said we were about to close, and I think that was all that I had. And I just wish everybody a wonderful evening and be blessed.
All right, man. Well, you know what? Like I said, it would be so boring without you. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you, Natasha. And I want to thank all of you guys for being on the call tonight. Please like and share. If you guys are interested in learning more about this, go to my website, houseofyahcommunityoutreach.com / or whatever, / and workshop. And so if you put in houseofyahcommunityoutreach.com workshop, that's going to take you right to our workshop page. If you go to houseofyahcommunityoutreach.com, you're going to have to click the little thingy on the left over there. It's like 3 dashes on the left, and it'll pull down a menu. It says workshops. Go into workshops, schedule an appointment with me. Somebody just scheduled one just now tonight. And we've got upcoming classes coming up. And if you guys need help, okay, I don't charge anything to help you. Okay. I don't charge anything to talk to you on the phone. So if you need a consultation, you need to vent, you need to pray, we need to call more people in on this. You know what? Schedule an appointment with me. There's nothing too big that my God can't handle. Okay. And when we start praying, that's when the walls of Jericho start coming down every time. So if you've got those walls of Jericho in your life and you need some help, if you guys are waking up in this process and you need just some help, schedule an appointment with me. I'd love to meet with you guys. Natasha, thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful evening. Good night. We'll see you guys next Sunday night at 6 p.m. and next Monday night at 6 p.m. Be well, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
There we go. Fun.